Blue's Live Series, Episode 13, Seaside Home. Last time on Blue's Live Series, alien detectives continue to search for 6 AMers responsible for Sim deaths. Niedza may have jeopardized the investigation with her own indiscretions. Salvatore convinces Blue to allow him to contact the people Blue loves. Geppettie went house shopping before she spoke with Blue. If he wanted to live by the sea, she would arrange that. The house was smaller than their previous home, but there was enough space for the animals and an area for gardening. It was more than adequate for their needs. The windows would have to be changed since Blue had developed claustrophobia. She would need to seek out a contractor to replace them for a more open and inviting look. After her inspection, she finished knitting the sweater she had made while her mind decided on everything she needed to bring Blue. He needed clothes, but he might also need a lantern and a tent. Not only was she planning on the steps she would take, she was fuming a little over the fact that he hadn't contacted her. Why? Had his feelings for her changed? Or had he not felt as much as she or he thought originally? Perhaps she was just being paranoid. Mercel received a phone call from Geppettie that Blue was on Solani and refusing to return home. He was deeply concerned to hear that he had a scar like an autopsy cut. He needed to talk to Blue as soon as possible. Carl was busy building his rocket. He was determined to go to outer space and confront those aliens, so Mercel decided he would go alone. Mercel went to speak with Geppettie in person. This was a major development. None of the previous victims had been found alive. He wanted to know every detail, where she had seen him, how she had come into the knowledge that he was alive, and who she had spoken with concerning Blue. Most importantly, where was he on Solani? Mercel needed to speak with him, and locating him was half the battle. After grilling Geppettie, he went to find Blue and discovered him next to a bonfire at the beach.
Hello, I'm Mercel, agent with Sim's Abduction Agency. How are you doing?
Blue was congenial and asked him what the Sims Abduction Agency was and what they did. Mercel told him.
We investigate the disappearance of Sims by extraterrestrial means.
You're not here by accident, Blue stated.
No. What can you tell me about what happened to you?
Blue stared at the fire for a time, then he slowly told Mercel about his ordeal, or at least what he could remember. Mercel listened carefully while his mind sent him urgent messages concerning the description Blue gave.
A woman?
Mercel probed. He knew the rumor that all aliens were female, but that wasn't what he was focusing on. The description could fit several Sims. However, it also fit a certain coroner. He would have to investigate the lab and question a certain coroner. Geppettie sought Sal's advice concerning Blue. He greeted her warmly. When she told him about Blue, he was very happy. The news was good. Yes, it is wonderful, but I want to know. Blue doesn't want to return home. He fears being trapped and the place where he was kidnapped from in the first place. He is very jumpy, clumsy, and well, he just doesn't seem like himself at all. Do you have any tips? Sal took a deep breath. He was remembering his own ordeal.
I understand. Give him all the love and support you can.
His face was filled with kindness.
If you can, perhaps you could arrange for him to meet some others from the support group. I would be happy to speak with him. There is no reason we couldn't have a support meeting there on the beach. Think about it.
He invited her inside. There she was greeted by Akemi, and they had a chat too. She explained her situation to Akemi. Akemi began to tell her about her personal experiences with Sal and his emotional roller coaster concerning the event. She spoke of late nights sitting at the table with a warm cup of tea. Sometimes they spoke about it, though it seemed they spent a lot of time speaking of other things, generally staring out at the night sky. There were times they went out and laid under the stars to stare at the sky and pick out constellations. It soothes him to distract his mind from the event, Akemi said. Thank you, Geppettie responded. Perhaps that is what Blue is doing, trying to keep from thinking about it. Blue amused himself by playing air guitar next to the bonfire. He pretended he was in Phil and Jeb's adventures playing for a large audience. The dolphins played in the background while he played out his fantasy. Here on the beach with his imagination, the waves lapping, the dolphins chatting, and the fire crackling, it was peaceful, even if a bit lonely. Geppettie found Blue wading in the ocean with Christopher Volkov and some woman she didn't know. He greeted her warmly and held her tightly. He told her how much he missed her and how good she smelled. She was elated to see him and felt bad about taking so long to come here. Hearing his voice, seeing him, and knowing he was there was comforting. She flirted with him and chatted excitedly. Everything came bubbling up. Her worries, the Sims abduction agency, and the alien support group. He listened and smiled at her. Blue was enjoying her company. She could have told him the sky was purple with pink polka dots and he wouldn't have cared. Hearing her voice, seeing her, and smelling her were intoxicating for him. She gave him the box with the items she had packaged up for him, then told him about her ideal of purchasing a home here on the islands. "Not to worry," she said. "I'll take care of everything." He listened to her. Then they went looking for a place to sit, where they could talk. Once they found a spot, talking was far from his mind. There they cuddled and reacquainted themselves, enjoying each other's company. Blue felt guilty for not contacting Geppettie to begin with, and he told her so. He told her about his fears, how he was terrified of returning to the house. It wasn't something he could overcome. "That's why I want to purchase a place here. It is a lovely place, and you love it so." He smiled and kissed her. Why hadn't he just called her? Henry and Thunder had a heated discussion concerning the disappearance of Blue.
"Someone had to have taken him. He couldn't have opened the chamber and walked out on his own."
They each blamed each other for their obvious carelessness. "What will we do?" Thunder asked. "We'll have to stop for now. The lab is off limits because certainly they will be expecting us to return. They may already know we have."
"I'll have to think. For now, let's just carry on like we are these lowly corners doing our jobs. Look for anything suspicious and we'll come up with a plan. We may have to move to another place on SimWorld, maybe even another continent. But for now, let's try to find out who knows what."
Niedza went to visit Blue. She smiled in spite of herself. Here he was, so adorable, and carrying their child. There was a sense of pride and excitement. She wanted him and found herself asking him to go on a date with her. He eagerly agreed. He told her that he had heard about men becoming pregnant due to alien abductions and had wondered how it had happened. He rubbed the back of his head and looked down at the ground.
"I guess I know now."
He explained that he was living in a house that had belonged to his grandfather and he had inherited. The two young women living with him were fresh out of college and struggling to find their way. They had agreed to help him. It was because of them that he had secured a huge loan and renovated the old place. It was now ready for the baby. They chatted about the baby and the possible futures. She was so excited that she became lost in the moment. The investigation and her reason for being on SimWorld seemed distant and so remote that it never entered her conscious thought. He invited her in and they continued to chat. They chatted about their upcoming date and where they would like to go. At the old quarter inn, Niedza couldn't help herself. She picked him up and kissed him, then found the question tumbling from her lips. "Would you like to be my boyfriend?" He grinned broadly, nodded, then said,
"Yes."
She felt elated and at the same time trepidation. What would Shira say? She was going to be in so much trouble. This wasn't what Shira meant by fix this. She probably should have offered to take the baby off his hands and told him, "I never want to see you again." But looking at him and how adorable he was, how could she? He had renovated a house just so he could take care of their baby. Their baby. Not his or somebody else's, but theirs. This made him more attractive than ever in her eyes. Niedza wanted nothing more than to be with this young man. Was that so bad? Was that something an alien wasn't supposed to do? Geppettie took Blue to the house and showed him around. He was very skittish about being indoors, but she had already called a contractor to put in plate glass windows throughout the house. Hopefully, it would make Blue feel less trapped, but she had arranged to set up a tent for him just in case. He wasn't certain until he went outside and saw the animal shed in the back. There was Calypso standing there. At first, he was surprised. He rubbed his eyes, then he went through the gate and petted her. It was good to see her, to touch her and smell her. She gave her neigh of approval, stomped her feet, and with a nod of her head disappeared into the shed to be seen no more. He breathed deeply. Had he imagined her? He took it as a sign. This was where Calypso wanted him, and that was enough. Conti stopped by. Her family wanted to plan a party for Blue's safe return and for a housewarming. Geppettie told her that she didn't think it was wise at this time. Blue had always been crowd shy, and now he didn't want to be indoors at all. No, a party might be too much for him. She did plan on connecting him with a therapist if she could find one that would do outdoor sessions. Conti understood, but she was a little disappointed. Blue found simple pleasure in planting a new garden. He had always enjoyed the outdoors, and anything he could do outside was a plus. Geppettie found the new location invigorating and peaceful. It was a very good move, she felt. Hopefully, Blue would feel the same. Blue tended the garden at their new home. Geppettie had sold practically everything. There had only been a few items she had kept. His father's handmade, irreplaceable instruments were gone, though he wasn't certain he had told her that his father had made them. She had saved the paintings he had done of her. Of course, Pepper and the chickens were here, and that was comforting to him. It was also comforting that he could just look out at the sea and see the dolphins playing. There was even a pier for him to fish from. It gave him pause. Why hadn't he done this before? The wedding seemed minuscule compared to recent events. How could the callousness of his friends and family compare with not only the abduction, but— he rubbed his chest. Why would anyone do such a thing? What was wrong with them? He watched the lapping of the sea. The scene was peaceful. Perhaps this was just what he needed.